God evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Throne Room, produced by The Bigger Picture. Tonight, I'm glad to have in the presence of the Throne Room, legendary G-Unit, my brother, Chubby Chub. I appreciate you coming through the house tonight to come visit the brother.
First and foremost, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Big. I appreciate you.
Yes, brother. You know, so tonight we could start out like before G Unit, before your time. Where does Chub come from?
From the Bronx, New York, 174 University. Was born on Cypress Ave and 138, but then we moved over to 174 Cedric Houses in the projects.
Oh, the legendary home of the Bronx, home of hip hop. That's where actually the Queen is from.
Okay.
Yeah, Ken, I'm from Harlem. Across the bridge. You know what I'm saying? But can you elaborate on how was the Bronx when you was growing up?
The fun part about the Bronx at the time is more how getting to know people and be friends with people, and also for me, it was hard because I'm Latino. I'm 100% Puerto Rican. And at that time, the melting pot wasn't the way it was. Like, blacks and Puerto Ricans was fighting. We used to have that problem. And as growing up, building your self-esteem and your character. But the music is what helped. The music is what joined myself into getting to know people and getting to understand what's what. It wasn't really the aspect of being in the street because I wasn't a street person. You know what I mean? Especially I had a pops that was like, sunlight upstairs.
Same here.
You know what I mean? Sunlight was gone. It was all you heard was that whistle and you run upstairs.
My mom used to come out with the belt if I wasn't upstairs by the time that sunset, ready to embarrass me. That's amazing. So being Latino, um, I know that you grew up like right in between where, you got to be identified as, Black American, but being Latino, like almost like what Alpo,
Right.
used to go through, so you could mix with the brothers and, you know, hear, know what,
Exactly. Cause
like
that
both
was my
sides.
that was my core in.
Yeah.
That I wasn't nobody thought I was Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
My whole life, for a good amount of time till my brother came outside. That's when everybody's like, "Yo, you lied to us. Yo, you Spanish. Like, yo, why you lie? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's because I didn't have an accent. So when I spoke English because my mom's didn't speak English, but I learned English by watching Sesame Street, Electric Company, Mr. Rogers, and I was able to speak clearly. So that's how I got over. I didn't have to speak Spanish outside. You know what I mean? I was outside. Everybody was like, "Yo, you black? Like, yo, come on!"
Yeah.
That one time my brother come outside, that was it. Because all he did was speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So he threw my whole joint out the window. After that, it was fighting all the way from school all the way home.
Wow. Yeah, that was a different time back then.
Nah, 70s was definitely different.
Yeah, that was a extremely different time. So you grew up listening to the which one was you turned on by, the hip hop or the Latino music?
The craziest thing, I was really listening to Spanish music, but it wasn't my thing. And then we used to go to my cousin's house on Saturdays early in the morning. Like, this is when your family used to go to people's houses early in the morning. Like you bring the Italian bread, ham and cheese and everything, and everybody come over. And my cousin used to listen to Cold Crush on 8 tracks. And that was it. It just caught me right then and there. That was my end all be all, listening to Cold Crush,
Wow.
listening to Fantastic Five, listening to Treacherous Three, listening to Fearless Four, listening to Funky Four Plus One More, which Keith lived in my projects. my building was here, his building was right there.
Wow.
From Funky Four. And then down the block, Special K from Treacherous Street and Tila Rock, which is the Keaton family. I used to be with the little brother,
Mhm.
Tone. Tone is my friend to this day. And we used to hang out and I used to watch them practice and all that.
That's amazing. So that's like really around the time where hip hop was first taking its rise, and that's when it was like flooding the street, and the youth was all catching on to it back then. That's when the older people thought it was a bunch of noise.
Right. That's funny that you said that, right? So I used to play, I had the only record I had at a time was Rapper's Delight. So it used to be like doom, 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 doom. So my moms would be like, I said doom, 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 like, yo, stop with the doom, doom, doom. And she's like, but I didn't realize she was saying the doom, doom, doom.
Hmm.
But she was saying the melody of the song
Hmm.
by telling me that she was tired of hearing that doom, doom, doom.
Hmm.
Because I kept hearing Rappers Delight all the time.
That's amazing. So when did you start deciding that you wanted to become a part of hip hop?
It wasn't even wanting to be. What happened was my god brother, he was DJing. God brother Diz, Mickey, better known as Mickey. He was DJing. He had people in his house, and he used to have two BSR turntables. They were regular record players, and he had two amplifiers. And I used to watch him DJ. But then when I saw like he had it, and another guy across the building, his name was DJ Dennis. Dennis used to have a whole setup, and everybody used to go in everybody's house. But when I went, they kicked me out. They were like, "Yo, you're a burger. Get out of there, you garbage." Like they was like, "Yo, you garbage." So I used to be like, "All right." Then one day I just got my own stuff, and I started. My mom's helped me. We was on welfare. She helped me get my first pair of turntables from a good friend of mine named DJ Benny, and he was selling straight on turntables, and my mom's with welfare. She paid for them, so I wouldn't be in the street.
That's amazing.
So that's how I really engaged with that aspect. But actually watching the DJ outside in the park, like a jam, that's when it really had me like, yo, I want to do that.
So actually, hip hop kept you from the street, and your mom assisted with it so that you could stay off the street. That's amazing, because we look at the children nowadays, and it's like the total opposite. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Crazy.
hip hop put them in the street. Like I don't understand that part, but I'm glad you just said that because that brings the memories back of what it all started for
Because it was fun.
you.
It was all fun. It was nothing like a summer day outside and hearing music, whether it be a boombox, whether it be you could walk in a certain area and somebody had their equipment plugged up. Because at the time you take a light pole, take the fuse out, everybody was set up everywhere. There wasn't no fines, there wasn't no sound pollution tickets or anything like that. It was just people outside jamming wherever they went. It was a happy time. I mean, it wasn't the greatest times, but it was a happier time. And to see that, especially in the Bronx, was like everything. Even when you went to like outside of certain parts of the Bronx and you would go like 125th Street and you could see like the Mart or where they Rock and Will, which was a store that used to sell mixtapes and DJs was going down there. Like having that type of feeling, it was different.
Mark 125, yeah, legendary, legendary place. For those that don't know, Mark 125 was like our black black-owned mall in
Hmm.
Harlem that had so many entrepreneurs
Custom
inside.
leathers
I
being
mean,
made in
yes,
there.
everything from the jewelry to everything was all just black entrepreneurs. Amazing time that those that are too young, y'all just
Don't
sorry.
understand
Yeah, you can't
the
understand
th-
back
the
then.
the the understanding of what a happy moment was, whether you was poor, but it was a happy moment because at that time engaging
Yes,
was everything.
you could just go there
You know
and
what I
go there
mean?
and you could see. Mike Tyson walk by, or some of
Yeah,
the
like
rappers
Mitch
walk
Green
by.
walked
Yeah,
where we were
exactly.
at.
Yeah,
Like, where I used to live at in the Bronx. Like he used to walk around there. Like,
yeah.
and growing up and seeing these celebrities and the people getting money and things like that. Like everybody that was doing things, but everybody was on a positive note. And everybody had a good, they had their little sidewinders, but there was people that was always very adamant about certain things. Like everybody used to be like drug dealers on my block, they used to be like, nah, get out of here. You ain't
Yeah.
gonna go DJ. And
It-
they would give me money to leave. So I go every day and be like, yo, what's up? What's going on? Nah, get out of here. Yo, here, go buy records, go do this. You know what I mean? They would keep me off the block.
Back then, in that time, it was a clear separation from the darkness and the light.
Mm-hmm.
There was no
Absolutely.
confusing the darkness and the light. And like I try to tell some of the kids now, like back then, you couldn't go up to this real street guys and try to bust no gangster rap. They'd have slapped you in the face and kicked you in the butt and ran you out of there. That was unheard of back then. It was one word here, one word there. They enjoyed your music. They like you to bust around, but you couldn't bust no rhyme talking about you a killer and you busting
Right.
shots. Or, like, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
That was unheard of. So, in other words, guys, this was before gangster rap. This was before that time came in where NWA and others had, you know, came to the music. And no offense to NWA and no one else, because they were
Absolutely.
victims themselves, but this is before that time, But so when did you actually get into DJing for parties and
When
like
I started DJing, I would say like 15, I was already doing like dollar parties and around the area and things like that. And then I got into a club, which really wasn't a club, it was a hall, but they made it a club every Friday night. It was called Parkside Plaza on Mount Eden Ave. And I would start
Eden?
there. And I was doing that every Friday, plus the dollar parties. And then move a little bit further, I started doing the Savoy when it was on 149th Street. Not 149. I'm saying when it was where the Disco Fever was at in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
Because Savoy was on 149 because it was the mansion at Savoy back in it. That was in
Yeah.
Harlem. So the other Savoy, the small Savoy, is in the Bronx. I ended up DJing there, and then like when I really started getting acknowledgement, the cats that was on my block called the Family, they had a Friday night, and I ended up doing it with the world famous Brucey B. I was opening up for Bruce. And so R.I.P. Love Bug, R.I.P. Star Child, and shouts to DJ Hollywood. They all would come, and I would be the opening for Bruce.
Yeah, all right. I know like these names that you're naming is like they're legends, and
Forefathers.
the people don't know. Can
Uh,
you explain to them like who Brucey B was and
I
what he did for this hip hop culture?
Talk about
Because
it.
I know
Talk
those
about
names
that.
just might have went past, them the people don't know.
All right, so let me explain. First and foremost, DJ Hollywood is the
Yes.
reason why there's a lot of DJs that would rap and DJ at the same time. That talent came from that man. Hollywood is from Harlem, legendary. Him alongside Love Buzz Starsky, which is another legend, R.I.P. passed away, and Star Child. So with those three, and then Brucey B, those are the forefathers to mixtapes. The reason
Yes.
why there's mixtapes, reason why there was
Absolutely.
club DJs in the Bronx and Harlem. Those DJs were the entertainment DJs. That's what I consider the personality DJs. Because they were DJs, but the aspect of knowing how to speak came from them. Before hearing of Kid Capri, you heard that.
Yeah, of course.
You heard these guys. Like, and I remember all the guys that was getting money, all my friends, what they used to do was give me all the rooftops. So Brucey B used to have the rooftop spot called the Rooftop, which was a skating rink on 155th. I was too young and never went. But I used to get the tapes every week, and they used to be like, yo, listen to this. And they gave me money, and they'd be like, go buy the records that's on there, and I want you to make that tape over. The drug dealers from my block. And they would always say, yo, make this tape, do this, go get that. So listening to Bruce, because I still haven't found, at this point, I still haven't found my voice. I didn't find the voice yet. I'm still just playing music, trying to DJ, just actually DJ, not, all right, shouts to my main man. Shouts to the. I didn't have that yet. Like I didn't that style of flyness. I didn't have that yet. But listening to them helped me. But it wasn't until I got to like a little bit later in the 90s, like right in the 90s when I met DJ Doo-Wop.
Doo-Wop, shout out to Doo-Wop, memories.
So Doo-Wop put me on to mixtapes. But he's the one that said, you gotta talk on your tapes. I wasn't trying to talk on my tapes. I didn't like my voice. He's like, nah, you got a dope voice. You got to do it. And I just was like, I don't even got it. Like I tried. I had a friend of mine red-handed talk on a tape. Like if he was Star Child and I was Brucey B DJing, but Bruce would talk, but I didn't talk. He like, nah, you gotta do your own talking. So I started to learn how to talk, and I learned how to build my personality. But it's because of the forefathers. It's because world famous Brucey B, Love Bo Starsky, DJ Hollywood, Star Child, and then Kid Capri and Clark Kent.
Wow, that's so amazing. How valuable back then was those tapes? How valuable?
Super valuable, super valid. I mean, I still got all my tapes. I still got all my masters. It's funny because I was talking to my man, and we're gonna transfer them. And I was talking to Vern too.
We're gonna make that happen.
We're gonna make that happen. So we're gonna start burning them to the USB so people can hear.
Friends would come over and used to have to keep those tapes on lock, like, you know, because they'd disappear on you, you know.
Yeah, there was a lot of time. A lot of tapes would be missing.
And don't put it in a cheap radio.
Oh man, forget about it.
You know,
your box eat it up. It's over.
We became master technicians at
you right.
Taking the tape,
take the tape, a little Scotch tape,
joint,
fix it back up.
Man,
you had that little whoosh, but it still worked.
Yeah, it still came through. We describing the time of hip hop that should be talked about, because we wouldn't have hip hop today as we know it if not
Absolutely.
what me and this man is talking about, and those legends that he just named just, you know, just bring back all the memories in the world. Didn't know how those guys looked, you know.
Right, you did. All you did was
but
hit
you
them.
knew their voices.
You knew their voices.
You know, and their voices went from borough to borough to
every car that was driving around, you would hear it, and it just had you. You had to hear it. You had to hear the latest tape of that week. Whatever happened that night, they had that tape the next morning out.
Yep.
And that was the end all be all. If you wanted to be a DJ, you had to learn that.
Peace to the guy Universal. That's now in the Essence. He used to be on 125th Street and 7th Avenue. You remember the guy?
Nah.
He was the one that would have all the mixtapes.
Yeah.
You would have to go to see him. He was like, oh man, he was like the record store, you know. He would be on 125th and 7th, you know what I'm saying? He had all the mixtapes. He was like the main person to go to. You know Universal? Yeah, that was, well, a lot of people know what I'm talking about. Shout out to the guy, Universal.
I mean, there used to be a lot of people that was hustling those tapes.
To the Essence, but he had them all. He had like, you know, that was like the main source to go to.
In the Bronx, there was a store. It was called the Tape Master store, and it was on Story Ave in Tremont. And that was a store like you would go in there and get Cold Crush, you would get Grandmaster Flash, you would get all the tapes that was out there. And it was like a library. So like the tape you had, you paid for, you could give it back and give $5 and you get a new tape. But you made sure you dubbed the one that you had before you gave it back.
At that time, do you think, not only yourself, do you think those brothers knew where hip hop was going at today?
Nobody thought hip hop would have been as big as hip hop
That it
is.
is now.
Nobody. You know, you got to figure a lot of the older people were saying that music y'all listen to ain't gonna make it. You know,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
what
gonna
we
do
heard.
anything. That's not gonna be. Lo and behold, it became something.
What do you think made that transition? What do you think the music that helped hip hop become what it is today?
I'm gonna say always the foundation. It's always for me. It's always gonna be the '80s.
I think I was talking about this with I believe Mr. Patterson, legendary producer Tim Dog. You know, shout out brother, much respect. And Cannabis. Um, I think it was when it broke to our parents. I think that helped it, and that I can't take away from Will Smith. Parents just don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Opened up doors that closed because again the old people really wasn't feeling it, but everybody thought parents just don't understand was cute. I can't take away from MC Hammer. We thought he did, and he got a lot of flack back in the days, but hip hop probably wouldn't have went to where it went to if it wasn't for that dancing dude with those big things. He took hip hop, he opened up doors that wasn't there, that wasn't open, that danced and stuff and all of that stuff broke genres. And of course, I can't never forget the legendary LL Cool J. You know what I'm saying? I Need Love. I Need Love was like, that was something else. You know what I'm saying? That was, I don't think that was like the first rap love ballad that was ever was, and that they had him on like Michael Jackson level. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You know, so.
I mean, you know, there's a lot of points in hip hop where, you know, it makes you realize how important certain things were. Because if you think like Sir Mix-a-Lot,
Yeah.
think about Young
Posse's on
MC,
Broadway.
like, you know what I mean? Like Young MC, Bust a
Yes,
Move.
of course.
You know what I
yes,
mean? Like
yes,
these records are the records that transcend into the happy,
yes.
you know what I mean? But also Run DMC,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, and their charisma and their
Walk
style.
this way.
Yeah, you know
So,
what I
you
mean?
know what I'm
Like
saying?
it's tricky
Mhm,
and these records that made sound like Rockbox, like even Rockbox, like just
yeah.
that alone. And you know, before Sucker MCs, the Rockbox had that whole feel because of the video and it was black and white. You
Shout
know,
out to Rick Rubin.
the visuals of these songs really make a big situation for a lot of people. But there's so many transitional periods of music that makes you say, oh wow. But it's always gonna stem back to that rapper's delight because it was a song that was so happy that everybody was singing it.
It lasted for years, and yeah, to this day.
Alongside with that and Curtis Blow Christmas rapping.
Yeah. Of course, Curtis Blow, can't forget. Yeah, Curtis Blow definitely
There's so many
was a
people
part of it,
that
yeah.
played an intricate part
Yeah.
in this hip hop. But as far as like how you said the crossover parts, like the Will Smiths, the MC Hammers, those are the people that made it broader to the massive.
Do you
Because
remember?
then you have Beastie Boys that become,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I
We
mean?
can't forget the Beast.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much that becomes, because then when you
Look.
strike into the 90s, right before the 90s, you got Jungle Brothers and you got the Native Tongues and Tribe and, you know, and everybody that comes along and it comes to a different foundation. And then you get Street, then you get Mob, and then you get the Wu, and you know what I mean? These people become classified, the Biggies, the J, 50 Cents. You know what I mean? There's so many different people that play a big part.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, rap and do. you know,
But the problem is just that you can't forget the foundation, and a lot of people forget that foundation because it's really the hard. The hard part is really forgetting that it started in the street. I don't care who, wherever area you from, it started in the street. It was a street thing. It was just outside, and it was almost like people being in front of a garbage can, and the fire is out, and they're just singing around the garbage can. So you got to feel that same type of energy when they was building this hip hop thing.
I remember the first hip hop that I resonated to. I was in school. You know, just a little kid. I can't even remember what grade. Somewhere in grade school, and before we would start school, we would have like be in the auditorium where we all have to gather
Mhm.
in the private school I went to, and all the kids was gathered around one day at the radio. One of the other kids, which happened to turn into my best friend, he had he a tape where he used to, I guess, wait till midnight because that was the only time hip hop was played on the radio at midnight.
Absolutely.
You know, you used to wait and catch that hour or two at midnight at 12 a.m. Shout outs to DJ
Thank you.
Red Alert. You know what I'm saying? Love you, brother. We hip hop wouldn't be where it's at today if it wasn't for that man as well. So DJ Red Alert would come on at midnight, have his thing. So he had one of those tapes. And at the time, I would only listen to rock and roll. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Because
exactly.
exactly.
That's how I
Yeah.
was too. Because they were, not to cut you off, but
No.
when I was growing up, it was only WABC that was on AM radio, and you would
Yeah.
hear all the rock songs. Like
Exactly.
the biggest song was like Roundstone
Yeah.
Cowboy.
Exactly.
Like I'd
Yeah.
never forget listening to that.
hmm
And then you heard like another one bites the dust.
Yeah.
And then you heard like the disco of the Tubi reels and things like that.
Yeah.
It's
I,
crazy.
I was a big rock and roll fan, 'cause that's what was put out there. That was what was on MTV. You know what I'm saying? That was all you saw. This is before, everything. So the kids was around and I heard this beat and I never forget the sound of that beat. You know what I'm saying? And it was so attracting. And I walked over, to the kids like I wanted, like they had their own little private thing, like, what I'm saying? I said, I want to hear what's playing. And it was Public Enemy's first, album, one of their first singles. And it was just, I never heard nothing like that in my life. You know what I'm saying? And it was that was like almost like the introduction to hip hop for me, and just that beat was just crazy. And then Chuck's voice, the way his voice came across, like, what is this? And then from then I started getting put on to Run DMC and people that was already out there. But I think MTV, once they got Yo MTV Music
Mhm.
Box, that really, really helped because now I had a visual of this. Rap City, of course, Video Music Box, but Video Music Box was so hard because, back then, see, this is before all the glitter and glamour guys.
Right.
Back then, we used to have a wire hanger.
Hmm.
And Video Music Box used to come on a channel that wasn't too
It wasn't on the
clear.
right channel.
Exactly.
Kinda
So
sorta.
we had to,
And it would come on at 3 o'clock.
exactly, we had to get
Gotta
the wire
finagle it.
hanger and finagle and do all
And it was
different type stuff.
and you had the, if you had the knob, you had to put your TV like
Oh,
almost in between
wow.
it was between like a 3 and a 4, just so you could get that little, oh, there we go.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
You know what I'm saying?
Yo, don't move. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it was that. Like, I
Yes.
would never forget that. But I also remember going, like, when we went out of town, and there was this thing called the box. And people, it was like a jukebox just for videos, and people would call up.
Mhm.
That's how they used to play videos, and you used to see videos that way. That was ill.
Yeah. That was memories. That's definitely what all started the music. So, getting back to yourself, now you 15 years old and you DJing at parties. What opened the door for it to become professional?
I still was trying to find myself at that time. By the time when when Doo-Wop took the chance and brought me down to 125th Street, it was a store called Stereo Palace.
Oh yes.
They used to sell all all tapes before it was Stereo Palace, but then they changed it to Stereo Plaza, and it was right across the street from the Apollo. And Doo-Wop took me down there and sold my first tape, and that's when it started. That's when I started. But right before that was watching the movie. We went to see the movie Juice, and Queen Latifah does the little interview with Q, Omar Epps, and she goes. So she's listening to his audition tape because he's auditioning for the battle, and she goes, "So you do parties?" It's like, "Yeah, things around way. I do things over here." Or you local? That was it. That was it. That local part. When I came back to my projects, it's like everybody went to the movies that day. It's like everybody went to the movies that day and like, yo, you local. Yo, you local. That was hurting my heart more than somebody calling you fat. I was hurt by local more than somebody saying, yo, you fat. Yo, you mad fat. Like, yo, I'd rather hear
Local.
fat than hear local.
Yeah.
I was hurt. But then after that, that's when I met Doo-Wop because my next door neighbor knew Doo-Wop. She introduced me to him and he took a chance and took me downtown. And from there on in, I started selling tapes.
That's amazing.
And from there, I started traveling. I started doing parties in Poughkeepsie, parties in Schenectady, parties in Baltimore, parties in DC, just off of mixtapes.
Wow. And how was it going to those other states with hip hop?
It was dope because at that time it still was fun. Like parties, clubs was rocking. Everything was fun. The '90s was a time. Like everybody was really partying. It wasn't no phone out and nobody sitting around being cool. It was everybody dancing, sweating, having fun. So you had that era of music that made sense for a lot of people.
And the DJ always was, he was the master of those parties because the tempo of the party always relied on him.
Right. It all depends on the DJ though.
Yeah.
Because not every DJ know how to really read the crowd. So,
Yeah.
that's a big problem. Like if you're not reading the crowd and paying attention, then but also at that time, people used to say that was my favorite DJ. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't got that no more. Right? I mean, you really got that for certain people, but it doesn't matter no more now. Now it's not like at a time when if you did a party, they were going to the club just to see you.
I used to run clubs back in the days, the security in the clubs. I always been in the security business. And down south, especially, I will always tell the DJs at a certain hour, you got to play R&B, you
Of course.
got to play love songs. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to bring down that tempo. You know what I'm saying? As you raise up the tempo, these guys ready to kill each other. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I said it's a certain time once that alcohol set in, and these guys get there. You got to play a love song. You got to play
I do
love
that. I
songs.
do that all the time to this day. I mean, thanks to my neighbor once again, Tanya Elmore. She's the one that taught me about slow jams when I was growing up. She like, you rocking parties, but if you don't play this, you're not gonna be able to get the party going. You're not gonna be able to make it really be a party if you're not doing this. And when I started knowing about Patti LaBelle and the stylistics and it's because of her. Like she told me about slow jams. Like I just was like, what? When I started finagling and understanding that, I was like, oh, all right. But I do that to this day. I still play slow jam.
Yeah, because It's really a part of hip hop. Hip hop is actually
Right. It's
yeah,
R&B. It's the melting pot
exactly.
of
Yeah,
what it is. Like Teddy, come
it's all of
on.
it. Yeah.
You listening to Marvin Gaye. Like that's the music that really set a tone for a lot of stuff.
I our original instrumentals came from those songs.
Yeah, all that old school R&B and
Yeah,
stuff.
listen to those songs, that old school R&B, and try to rap over it. And then especially when you got the album that had the instrumental, you would get the single and it would have an instrumental on the
Yeah.
other end. Oh man, that was definitely how most of the rhymes started until you started getting the DJs like yourself that knew how to take the loop and make it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
light that
saying?
joint
Yeah,
hot.
make it long. Just and yeah, that's just the grounds of hip hop right there. You know. So when would you say that? When did it come to a time, the point where you was in a party and you was DJing and you noticed that it wasn't about good times no more? That it was being taken over by something different, by a harder, harsh music that not that it wasn't good because all of it was good, but it was a time where I watched it shift to now the rappers are becoming gangsters or the gangsters are becoming rappers or what's happening here?
I never seen a part of music where it became different because it's always been, for me, I always can tell the difference. I never, you know, if we look at how they say gangsters or what hardcore rap was, you think about Easy E before understanding what Easy E and NWA was, or even understanding mob style. Like a lot of people don't really know about how mob style was gangster music. You know what I mean?
Oh, Mob Style definitely was gangster
You know
music.
what I mean? But a lot of people don't understand that type of gangster music. You know what I mean? Because they was living that and they was really just spitting that. So when you think about like really gangster music, you got Cool G Rap, then you had um, MOP, Freddie Fox, people that was really rapping that became that stronger reason of music that you was like, oh, this is different. How about some hardcore? Yeah, we like it raw. Like Onyx, like hearing that type of thugged out music made you feel different. But none of the music gave me a transitional period where I could say it wasn't gonna be this or it wasn't gonna be that. It all depended where you were playing. You know what I'm saying? So it became, if I had to say a time period that made a real change, I'm gonna say 98 when Cash Money came around. Because now we're playing South. Now we're body about it. Now we're trying to engage with this. Like I could never forget the first time I played Juvenile High. I was in Jersey. I did I did Atlantic City one time. This club is rammed. And I'm still playing off of vinyl. This is vinyl. And I threw that record on and they went crazy. Like I never knew that record was gonna be that big. Ding 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 ding. Like I was like, what? Like I just played it to see because everybody was like, yo, you gotta play high. And I'm just like, all right, I had the record, I just played it, and that reaction was crazy. Juvenile High, crazy. And then they had the remix with Jay on it. That was a different contrast. That's when I said music was different. Then you heard Juvenile more, you heard Master P. It just became South. Then after that is Lil Jon era that everybody was hearing, that hard 808 and different type
Crunk
of
music.
movement. Jermaine Dupri had stuff. You know what I mean? So it was like that trend, that 2000, that 90, late 90, 2000, that era was different. That's when it took hip hop into another I would say that's the other realm that we didn't expect.
Yeah. I know that being that I was back and forth in the South during the 90s a lot, I used to drive around in the South and only play New York stuff. You know what I'm saying? And when I got to New York, I would drive around in New York and only play the South stuff. So this is before they was even on, because I was on to these guys, 8 Ball, UGK,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? I knew these guys from years just being in the South, and I had realized in the South that they didn't know the rappers that we had in New York. They didn't know who Cool G Rap and Mobb Deep or any of those people were. They had no idea who those people
It's
were.
crazy.
They had their own,
They had their own
movement
music.
out there, their own music. And I had, and it wasn't about the lyrics. You know what I'm saying? They had figured out how to make rap music more from expression and sounding good. It wasn't so much how we
Pen.
focused
Right.
on the pen
The
game.
pen.
Yeah.
It was having they was creating fun.
Yeah.
Cause I could never forget also like I got booked to do Atlanta. And Atlanta was playing a lot of South. I didn't really understand what they was playing. I was playing hip hop, like, because where we from is hip hop.
Yeah.
The Bronx, New York was hip hop. But they had that one record, Young Bloods. It was called U-Way.
Yeah.
That DJ played that, and that went into a frenzy. I said, "Yo, I need that record.
Yeah.
I'm bringing that record back."
Back, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, I'm going back with U-Way. U-Way, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I seen the impact of certain songs that was like undeniably like, wow.
Yeah.
To see records when you go to like, cause my good friend Skeet, the group that I was in Original Flavors from Greensboro, North Carolina. So like going to Greensboro and seeing those people react to these records like the Too Short and UGK and Ice Cubes and stuff. I mean, we were playing Ice Cube because we was playing the Great America's Most Wanted. That album was big on our side too. But in the South, there was album cuts of certain things that we didn't know, like Outkast
Yeah.
and other rappers. Like you'll be like, what? 8 Ball, MJG, like
Yeah.
there's so many
Gods.
other artists that you didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm always doing homework. I'm always trying to see who's who and what's what. Because it's never what you expect. Even though wherever you travel as a DJ, they don't expect you to play their music. But nowadays you have to play everything. But at that time when they was booking you, they booked you because of what you did. They didn't expect you to come and do what they were doing.
Just thinking about those big songs that definitely changed the platform. And then I didn't see this one coming, Started going to the strip clubs, and the strip clubs
They was breaking records.
started breaking records.
They was breaking records.
The strip club music took over hip hop.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And I didn't,
If your record wasn't hot in the strip club,
exactly.
it wasn't hot.
I didn't. I watched that whole, thing go down. I'm running strip clubs, doing the security and stuff like that, and I didn't. It happened right before my eyes. You know what I'm saying? I said,
while you tossing everybody out.
yeah, exactly. No, yeah, right before my eyes, the strip club music got in, and that pushed it all out the door, and that took over. And now, if the stripper couldn't dance to your joint,
Right.
you didn't have a hit.
Yeah.
If they jumped up and you put on their thing and they got on that pole and started doing their thing and flipping, you had a hit.
Yeah. And DJ get the blame when you play something that ain't rock, forget about it.
Yeah, that was really amazing. Amazing.
I seen that a lot in Miami in the beginning.
So how do we get up to G Unit and you getting down with the legendary, 50 Cent and Tony Yayo?
What happened was there was a Well, I was breaking 50s music in Boston when I was on radio. I'm still on radio. When I was doing radio, but it was an audition one day, and I went in the audition.
You know, was DJ Woo Kid the DJ before you?
Yeah, Who Kid was before me.
Yeah. All right, everybody know. Shout out to Woo Kid.
Shouts to Who Kid.
Yeah.
Sada Pop.
So y'all just came back off a world tour.
We was on a world tour. We was on the final lap tour.
Yeah, now that's very interesting to me. Like I had told my brother Tony Yayo one time, there's so many people that watch these platforms that and never really get a chance to travel outside of their city or nowhere. Is it anything that you would like to elaborate about? Some different parts of the country you've been to, or some of the things you might have seen.
Let me tell you, being with 50 Cent is one of the greatest experiences ever. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. It's nothing that you'll never be able to say that you've been to places that you probably can't even pronounce. Or things that you've seen because you went to school and you studied the geographic map, but you only seen that on the map. You didn't know you could really physically go there. I've been to countries that I've never thought in my life. You probably heard these countries when you're watching a CIA movie or something that has some kind of agent in it, and they'll say a certain name like Ukraine or I mean, it's so many places that I've been to that you like, what?
Try again.
I don't know what's wrong with my phone, but it bugged out.
Right.
But I've been to places that I probably couldn't even pronounce at the time. I've been to so many places in 10 years, I've been to so many places that you'll never, I don't think you'll ever, unless you do it yourself and do your own destination, say, I want to go to this part of the world. That's something you did on your own. But DJing for somebody that is that, and you stay at the illest hotels, you're on a jet, like it's a Uber, like it's 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 unheard of.
You ever had caviar pancakes?
Yeah.
Caviar?
Caviar pancakes?
Nah, that's yayo, yayo. That's yay and murder. That's yay and murder.
Yeah, the little special candy they said.
And they got all kind of
little
like.
candies.
Let me tell you, in your hotel room, you got special stuff.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I
what
mean?
they
Like,
saying in the hotel.
like it's so many. It's just like, and to be able to touch so many people is crazy. Like, there isn't an artist like him. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest, there's not an artist that, a lot of artists, no disrespect to a lot of artists, but the work ethics that man put in can't be taken away. I personally played in front of 100,000 people in Saudi Arabia. I played for 100,000 people in Brazil.
That's amazing.
And
And they all know who he is.
yeah, and a lot of them don't know English,
Wow.
and they still know the word for word. Like, that's another thing to see. So many people word for word singing these songs
Don't even
to
know
this day
English.
is crazy. We're not talking 10,000 people, 5,000. We're talking about 60, 70, 80, 100,000 people all over the world.
Amazing.
Ain't too many artists that you could say can do that.
We back it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Said that that you actually auditioned to DJ for him, but it's important to let the viewers understand that your career actually stems decades before that audition.
Nah, definitely. I mean,
Let's talk about how you got into the industry.
how I got in the industry. Well, mixtapes was one of the things, and then I used to. Clark Kent was my mentor. I used to open up for Clark Kent. I used to
Shout
open
out
up
to
at
Clark Kent.
a lot of his events. I used to open up with Clark. Then I got with a group called Original Flavor, which today marks the 30th anniversary of that album, Beyond Flavor. We were signed to Atlantic Records, and Jay-Z featured on the song called Can I Get Open? He featured
way.
on that album. And that's where, we were signed to Atlantic, and I went from that and started going from there. We just was touring. We was local. We did a lot of video music box joints. But we got to travel and we did, a lot of things. That was like the beginning for me to be able to DJ. I mean, I've DJed for other artists before that. I was signed to Wild Pitch too at a time. I DJed for a guy named Main One. I mean, I got a lot of blessings. I thank God for a lot of my true blessings of being a DJ, a person that never stopped. I've been consistent at it. I got the DJ for Nas. I DJ for Foxy. I DJ for Fat Joe. I DJ
Wow.
for Khalees. And then 50 Cent. You
Oh, that's
know, and
amazing.
and I've done parties for the best of them, and I can never take that away. I can't say, oh, I ain't do this and I ain't do that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just thankful and I'm very humble that I was able to cross these paths and make things happen. Because we don't all get those opportunities.
No, we don't, and that's a opportunity. That's just a blessing, like you said, being able to travel the world and see those other things. That's why I try to give the people a visual, that's never gonna go outside of their box, that they're in, to know that there's other life out there,
Yeah, you can't limit yourself and you can't be around yes men. Yes men ain't gonna do it for you.
Oh yeah, so please.
Because a lot of people fail to limit themselves because they feel like their man's in them and tell them, nah, don't do that, or nah, that ain't it, or you gotta just go. Like, even for myself, when I first started, I didn't just stay in the Bronx. I went to Harlem, I went to Manhattan, I went to Brooklyn, I went to Jersey, I went to Queens by myself. I met people, wasn't afraid. I always remember these three little words that a friend of mine told me. It's three little letters. It's GFN, Good Friend Network. Always be able to create the Good Friend Network. Shouts to Clinton Sparks. He always told me that, and I always remember that, because every time you meet somebody, you leave an impression, and that impression lasts longer than anything else that can happen in the world, because you'll never know when it'll circle back to something else that'll lead to something greater.
Do you feel rappers are role models?
Some rappers could be role models. Some rappers, I mean, you know, what we consider role models for ourselves growing up, our parents would have been our role models for some of us. Our uncles would be role models for some of us. Do a lot of people believe in rappers? I think so. A lot of kids do fall a victim to what rappers say and rappers do. If a rapper told you the new Dolce Gabbanas came out, let me go get those. You'll find a way to go get them. You ain't got it, but you'll go find a way to get them. A new shirt came out. Oh, I'm gonna get that shirt because it's made by that shit. He wore it. I'm gonna get it. In that aspect, yeah. But do we really sit? I don't think the average child nowadays is going looking up to saying, I want to be that rapper. I see a lot of people say that about 50 Cent. I see a lot of people say that about Jay-Z. I see a lot of people say that about Fat Joe. There's certain rappers that catch your eyes. I don't see that happening for the youth like that. Do we take away from that? Nah. I think everybody like who they like. Everybody has their reason of being. I don't think I'm gonna say glorify to be the rapper that's just being a rapper. I glorify the rapper that's doing more than just the average, creating more opportunities. I look up to that type of situation. If I'm a kid, I want to look up at what they're creating. Like, let's take LL, been in the game for years, created a whole new stigma of radio for a lot of people. Rock the bells, create opportunities for a lot of older rappers. You understand what I'm saying? Look up to that. Like a person that's in movies, been in movies and TV, and he's still doing big things. I'll say look at to the people like that. I don't say look at to this rapper because he's just rapping because he bought a chain that costs 150,000. That ain't gonna make me be like, yo, I want to be like that.
What's your current feeling on the drill music?
Drill music is dope. I mean, I like, I mean, you know, for me, I'm gonna be honest, I always said since the last 5 years, it's been a youth game. I can't take away nothing from the youth because when I was young, my parents told me that music wasn't them, that music. And it's the music that helped build my career. Can we take away from their music? Nah, because when we was growing up, Cool G Rap talked about selling cooked up rocks and this and that on Road to the Riches. So that was basically our street shit. And for those that are not in the street, would think they was in the street.
On Road to the Riches, I often hear people point out Coogee Rap, but for me, he in all of those songs, he kind of told you the end though. You know, on Road to the Riches.
There was
And
a
truly
difference.
yours,
Yeah.
he definitely tells you the whole
He
end.
tells you the end of
There
the end of the
there
story.
definitely was a difference.
So I can't really compare Coogee Rap to that because you know he gave you a clear illustration. If you choose this lifestyle, you'll play, you'll do this, but ultimately it's jail or the grave, and you won't be smiling on Rikers Island.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know,
You're absolutely right.
it's the illustration. The drill music, don't get me wrong. The sound of it, of course, I like the sound of some of the stuff that I hear, but when I think about the children, you know what I'm saying, and those that don't have a father
Right.
at home, those that don't have the proper parenting at home, these kids want to become that, and I look at the death that goes along with that. We could just see in Chicago alone, like,
Crazy.
you know, yeah, that's just, you know, insane. And then even when it got to New York, we see, you know, what it does here. It's something about There's something about that either those guys don't have a role model that's around them that's, you know, setting a good example, but, you know, I worry about the effect that it has, you know, on our
And it's funny because I spoke to Vern about this the other day, where I say when we was growing up, we had OGs that told us,
Absolutely.
like I just finished saying that they didn't want me selling drugs.
Yes.
Like the drug dealers didn't want, they was like, they knew I wasn't that. They knew I wasn't strong enough for that. They told me like, yo, get out of here. Get away from here, because anything can happen in this moment. So we fail to realize that a lot of kids don't have that. Like you said, they don't have certain parents that tell them the truth, or they just don't want to listen because everybody wants to feel like they're bigger than somebody. Nobody wants to seem like they're soft when you know you're soft, because not everybody grows up to be a killer.
Of course not.
You know what I mean? You have to really be embedded to this type of situation. Whether you want to be a bully, you have to be that type of person to want to be a bully. To beat up on somebody, you got to be somebody that's willing to do that all day long. to terrorize somebody, knowing that person is not built. That's sucker shit.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? But kids nowadays, their self-esteem is not as strong. Like when we was growing up, it was different. You had to build your self-esteem. You had to build your confidence. Me growing up as a fat person, I had to really build my confidence and self-esteem.
Yeah, speaking about that, not to interrupt you, congratulations on the weight loss,
Thank
brother.
you.
You really look good.
Thank
You
you.
know, you trimmed down, you know. I think that's commendable because
And it's all health.
health is
It's
something
all
else that
original.
kind of
Really,
should be
really put the
promoted.
work in.
Yeah, to our people, they gotta understand health is everything. Like wealth means it's secondary to health.
Right.
If we don't have our health, what is this all for?
Yeah, if you don't got that clarity and you don't got that health, you don't got anything.
Yes, I
Nothing
just
else
want to
matters.
definitely give you a
Thank
shout
you.
out to that.
I
It's clear to
appreciate
see
that.
how much
And it's the hard
the
work.
work
This
that
year
you
be
put in.
June to be 3 years that I've been consistent in the gym. No surgery, no Ozempic pen, no no drugs, just
Amazing.
hard work every day. I went from
Amazing.
390 pounds to 240.
Wow, that's amazing, bro. That's commendable. You know, yeah,
Now it's just building the muscle
the
and
muscle.
the structure of
Mhm.
the body.
That's amazing, brother. It's an amazing thing. No, but getting back to hip hop, I think that if those brothers had, you know, some type of something to look up to that was more better, maybe we'd be in a situation. You know, I have kids, I have boys, and I, you know, worry about the future world
Yeah.
that they're gonna grow up in.
I got kids too, grandkids too.
Yeah, so that is a concerning thing for a father. You know,
Definitely.
they're not gonna hear what me and you grew up off of, the KRS One, the X Clans, and all of that, which helped shape the person who I am now that's sitting before you. If they're listening to, you know, the drill music and the negativity and the money, cars, whores, and you know all that other stuff, what that might form them. You know, now my boys in particular would be all right because they have me, but how many other
Right.
inner city
And that's what
kids
I say.
that don't have a mom and dad at home, you know, that don't have that structure at home, you know, I worry about that.
I worry about that too as well. I try to embrace a lot of kids as well and talk to different like younger cats that want to be DJs or they want to be rappers, they want to be in the music. You know, what I try to tell people is just be clear minded. You know, say what you gotta say or feel what you gotta feel, but be clear minded. Because there's so many misleading aspects in this game. And there's so many things that have put people to be in a peer pressure situation. That kind of messes up not being a good kid no more. You know what I mean? It's like now it's like you're being peer pressured to being this tough person when you're not. Like everybody knew who was who when you was growing up. When I was growing up, everybody knew he's soft, he's not this, he's that. Or him, nah, leave him over there. You know what I mean? They could divide that. But as these kids are growing up, like the biggest problem is not having somebody to talk to. Not being, you know, fathers being fathers. That's a big situation. And even for me, like growing up, I didn't have my father all the time. My father didn't he ain't do nothing for me that made me be who I am now. It made me stronger because I didn't allow that to stop me. So at a time, you're gonna have to, what they used to say, man up. So for every person that's out there, every young person that's out there, find somebody that you could confide in to help you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Because a lot of these kids are being misled to a lot of different things.
Yeah, and you know, I think that is what it is right there, the misguiding and the misleading, and you know, was what hurts me a lot for some of them that do have, you know, older people in their life or something in their life, they guide them the wrong way, you know. They send them the wrong way. You know, drugs is a bad thing.
Oh, definite.
I know everybody now is on the New York. And how you feel about that? New York made marijuana legal, and me and you see something that is like unimaginable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, when we were growing up, you know, just all the way to the 2000s,
Yeah.
that was, you know, you couldn't. You know what I'm saying?
That was some medical
that
weed.
if they pull you, if they
now
pull,
you got a card and you can
yeah,
go buy
yeah,
it.
exactly. If they pull you over, that was carte blanche. Get out the car. Come on,
Yeah.
come on, get on out. You know what I'm saying? That was
Before
like,
they used to sell it through the peephole when you was young. Let me
Yeah,
get a nickel
exactly.
bag.
Yeah, the
Let me get a nickel bag. Let me get a tray bag.
You know, I think I worry about the access of marijuana now. How does it affect the youth? You know, because you know, now it's like anyone can get it, easy. It's
Standard.
Yeah, it's standard.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm not. I don't smoke and I don't drink neither. I stopped drinking a long time ago. I feel that if I had to take any, I'd rather let them smoke weed than me worrying about hard drugs, dope, coke, whatever the fentanyl that they be doing and all that other stuff that's going on. I'd rather them smoke weed. If they're gonna smoke anything and do anything, I'd rather the weed because for some people it gives them the downer. It gives them the I'm cool, I'm relaxed. I'd rather that
Laid back.
than you being wired on all kind of other stuff that's on in the world.
When I grew up, they used to have a saying that I know you heard that weed was a gateway drug. Now I understand that it's not a gateway for everyone, but for some, it is. You know what I'm saying? And I worry about that because then again, we're going right back to that population of the weak ones that might not have the right structure around them. It goes from the cigarette to the alcohol to the marijuana to the cocaine to the crack.
That's the
You know
same
what
way
I'm
your
saying?
moms would say it.
Yeah.
And my mom would be like,
My mom
oh,
told me
Jelba,
weed was
ya
crack.
tú vas a estar on top of that, la
Yeah.
cocaína, viene,
Yeah.
they thought thinking you a drug addict
No,
already.
Por ahí viene el
stop.
crack.
Yo,
Just for a little,
yeah, no.
just for a little bit of this, you've already touching on everything
My
else.
mom's told me that. She told me the same thing. She said, you smoking weed, you smoking crack. I used to try to explain, Mom, no, it's not crack. It's not crack. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
they
You know?
automatically
Yeah,
think
that-
you
that-
on dope, you sniffing heroin, you on lost. We gonna find you selling a TV like quick. My mom wrote me off quick. Oh, you ready to do this? You ready to do that? I'm like, nah, it was. Forget it. I don't even want to do it no more.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, they used to smoke woos. They was taking a cigarette,
No, I remember
take the
that,
cigarette
and
out
put
and
it
put
in
cocaine
there,
inside it.
Yeah.
And this is in the 8th grade. I'm standing these cats, they smoking that. I'm like,
now imagine where they
I don't
at
even want to
now,
tell you
and
who influenced me to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know.
No, that's, you know, and whoever been able to get over that demon, God bless them, you know what I'm saying? You know, because, yeah, that's a demon right there. I remember, you know, those guys doing stuff like that. And, yeah, you know, I think if, again, we didn't have those strong mothers that, you know, I felt guilty. She made me feel guilty enough smoking weed to where
it was bad.
I didn't want, you know, she
Let
didn't
me
have
get rid
to
of this
worry.
bamboo paper.
Exactly.
I don't want
She
this
didn't
no
have
more.
to worry about me doing nothing else. I felt so ashamed from the marijuana. If I smoked the joint, I'm like, I felt like she didn't put this crack in my head. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh man,
And
I'm going
that's the
down.
crazy thing, though. That's how they look at us. Like they start thinking you going down a drain. You started this. Next thing you know, we're gonna have to put you in rehab, and you doing bad. Like you know what I mean? But I mean, I tried smoking, but that wasn't for me. Like that wasn't it. One thing I did do, I was eating edibles. Edibles had me panicking. I don't ever want to do none of that no more.
Yeah.
But them fruity pebbles, boy, will get you.
Yeah. And I remember when the K2 hit New York. Oh man, I had to deal with that throughout so many of my stores in the city. And I think it died down now, but when that K2 hit, you had people in the street thinking they was animals and bugging out, and just that was like worse than dust.
Crazy.
You know, so
It be
people,
the hard drug though. The hard drug be the worst.
drugs, they're just bad for you. Stay
Bad
away.
period.
And I'm glad that you quit alcohol. That's a
Yeah.
good thing. And this is not a plug, but I take the moment to again let the world know. Welcome to Sun and Chill. Me and
Alright.
Vernon and the Queen alternative drink that we made. We have all different flavors. We have gin, we have rum, we have whiskey, we have tequila. But it's non-alcoholic. Will not destroy your liver, and you're not putting those bad spirits inside of you.
That's dope.
You know, I would like to present you with a bottle, brother. Like I said,
Oh man,
non-alcoholic.
thank you.
It's a liquor replacement. Tastes like the real thing, but no
I love this
alcohol
logo
inside
though.
it.
Boy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
The throne room, yeah.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic, baby. Classic.
So
Appreciate you.
yeah, we definitely appreciate you. Before we wrap up, I like to say, what was your if you to think of an experience in hip hop that was your best moment? What comes to your mind that you might want to share?
Traveling the world is one of the best moments.
I figured that.
Being able to travel different countries and see different people. I'm on my 5th passport.
Yeah, that's
You know what I
Tony
mean?
Yayo.
Traveling, it has been the most gratifying thing is really that being able to DJ in different countries and have fun and be on stages in front of so many people. Like if I had to say, that's probably the best thing ever. Is something that I never thought could be that big. Because when I started DJing, I just wanted to DJ because everybody else was DJing, but I wanted to DJ just to get clout, to get seen. You know what I mean? Get heard. Like I was trying to build myself just by DJing, but I didn't know that it was a career. I didn't know that it was gonna lead to traveling and making money and meeting people and knowing things. Like I didn't think of none of that. When I did it was a hobby. It was just learning how to play records and knowing how to needle pick and just have fun in your own house. I was considered the bedroom DJ. I would have never experienced the fact that I could get in front of 400 or 500 people, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and play music, and people was gonna love what I did.
That's amazing. I will never forget the group that, you know, I rode around to and helped, you know, change my path in a lot of ways. That was my ride of music, the original G Unit, which was Tony Yayo, before the albums,
Right.
which was Tony Yayo, 50 Cent, and Lloyd Banks.
Always.
My guy Lloyd Banks, is he ever gonna, come back apart?
Oh, I don't know about that.
But shout out to Lloyd Banks. I hope that, I only want the best for brothers.
They all working.
Yeah.
Everybody's working. That's the best thing is the fact that they're all working.
You always want to see the band get back
I would
together.
love to see
have that feeling,
Yayo Banks and Fifth on stage.
Yeah,
that would be
see brothers be
an amazing thing. I would love to see that.
Get past their differences or whatever, and put the band back together, you know.
But their music is gonna live on forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their mixtape game is undeniably incredible.
Absolutely.
Like you can listen to their music now, like it just dropped yesterday, and you're gonna listen to it.
You pinpoint one of your best memories.
Traveling the world.
Yeah, traveling abroad. Like, what would you consider one of your best memories from traveling abroad?
Oh, you know, my best show I want to say is Summer Jam when 50, Yayo, Banks, Buck, they were all. That's when they just got back together for that time, and we traveled at that time period. I was able to in 2014. I was able to. They was all on stage. That was like when we thought we was gonna keep going on tour. That whole tour that way. But that one show at Summer Jam was crazy. Nas performed first, then 50 came on and blew the roof off. But he brought out the guys. You know what I mean? To see that was crazy. Being a part of that was crazy. That was G Unit in itself.
Absolutely.
What about the worst?
The worst, City Field, better known as Shea
Yo,
Stadium.
he came out with it quick. He had that
My
in the
worst show
Yeah.
was that I thought I got fired that day. Was Shea Stadium, better known as City Field. We go to perform and I was using turntables and the wind was blowing the needles across. I couldn't control it. It was the work. The band was on stage with me, and it was a little stage, and all of us and everything was shake. The worst show by far. That was the worst show I ever had.
He said that quick, like he was like,
Nah,
he's
that
never
was the
gonna
worst
forget that
show
one.
ever. I mean, after that, before that would be one year I did, and it was like 90. So this is when Biggie and Pac was beefing. And I did Rochester, New York. And I'm DJing. I'm playing Mad Biggie, everybody going crazy. And I go and I play California Love. Yo, they went, boom! I grabbed the record and I threw it against the wall. And it cracked. They was like, ah! And I went right back to Biggie. And that's on VHS. We gotta find that VHS.
Yeah, we're gonna look for that one.
That was what we consider quick thinking. That was one of
Right.
my illest moments as DJing in a club, like DJing at Rochester, New York, in the school, at the college. And I was playing Mad Biggie, and they was going crazy. And that joint just said, "Friend of girl you love." Woo! I said, whoosh. Took that joint mad quick. Took the record and threw it. Boom! And it broke. Everybody was like, ah. And I went right back to Biggie.
Well,
Unplanned.
now that we break that up, that was a terrible, traumatic time for all of us. Though what happened with those two?
Yeah,
brothers.
definitely bad timing. But I didn't even think so much of it that anybody would have been upset. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know that the
Streets
East
was.
Coast was so hard
Yeah,
on
the
that.
streets was.
You know what I mean? Like, cause regardless, they both was dope rappers, but I didn't know like people were really like
The streets.
they was against that.
The streets. Yeah.
And this was college. This was a college party.
Yeah.
You expect that in a club or something, like, you know,
They
somebody gonna be
imitating
like,
the
yo,
street, though.
come on, man, what you doing playing
Yeah,
pop?
They imitate.
You know what I mean? But it's crazy to see that at a college party and they yell boo, like boo, like that boo hurt. Like I was like, yo, you know what I mean? Like I ain't know what to do. I just was like,
he said that boo hurt.
that boo hurt. Like I've never been booed.
Right.
I've never been booed. Like, I mean, never. No artist I ever been with ever been booed. Thank God. Like, I've never been booed. That day I got booed for that California love.
You made up for it.
But I took that joint off and flung it against the wall. The wall was way high. I said, woof, that's just like crack. And I left it right there. And I went right back to Biggie. And they was like, yeah. That was it.
It was very sad because for whatever reasons that was made to appear to be uh, uh, if it would have stayed a rivalry that was personal, I don't think people would have took to that. But
They made it an East Coast, West
they
Coast.
made it an East Coast,
They made
West
it. It
Coast
made
thing,
it seem like one was one was less than the other,
Exactly,
and that's what made it bad.
and yeah, in New York, this wasn't. Biggie at the time was like, he was almost like a hero for New York.
He was a hero.
answer. Yeah, he was the
And
answer.
Pac was the hero for
back.
LA.
Yeah, and it was like
West Coast.
we didn't want to. We didn't want. We didn't want to get no more of that. Talked about, and we had been through enough of that. You know what I'm saying? It was like, and it was just sad.
To see that type of impact, those two artists collided a world that a lot of people don't realize how much two people changed two different cities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the world, because you got to figure out how many people on top of that was so much Pac and so much Biggie throughout the world.
Were you traveling from coast to coast during that time?
Yeah.
Can you describe like the energy that you felt between the East and the West?
Well, the West, I didn't really have a problem.
As a DJ, from a DJ.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, after all that, when I went to the West, it was already settled. It wasn't as bad as it was when it was on the East at the time when it was in the heat. You know what I mean? By that time, I knew not to play certain things in the West Coast that you couldn't play. You couldn't really play Biggie like that. You know what I mean? At that time, I was alcoholics and I was in that lane. I was Mac 10 and I knew what I had to do with that. But I was just streak about that. But, it was a time though. You really think about it, it's really a time when you think about like how big these two rappers were.
How young they were.
Yeah.
I think about their age. Glad that I didn't have to fall victim, for some of the things that I was doing at 24, 25. Because now that we get to the age that we are now, we can look back then and see babies. You know what I'm saying? Didn't get a chance to.
They didn't get to live.
Exactly.
They didn't get to live.
Make that, develop.
The transition of being able to say, I seen my kids grow up.
Yeah.
Being around my moms or, things like that. Like, it's a lot of misfortune with that. But it also grounded hip hop. Because you figure it caused a lot of unity after that between a lot of other rappers in that era.
Yeah. What do you think about social media? Because that's something for us guys we didn't see coming. We didn't see this whole social media thing taking over.
Social media for me is a promo tool. I don't use social media for what it is, but a lot of people are misguided by it. And that I feel bad for like the real younger generation because especially when it comes to the little girls that look at certain girls and they're like, oh my God, she looks so pretty and I don't look like this and I don't look like that. That judgmental factor bothers me a lot because when I was growing up, like I said, being heavy, it was hard. You know what I mean? Around my block, the light-skinned guys was the guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Skinny, light-skinned guys was the guys the girls was gravitating to. So you got to figure if you looking on that gram and they oppose, you're like, oh my God, I don't look like this. When we was growing up, we liked anything of a girl as long as she talked to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she could have one ponytail. It didn't matter. Like, now it's like, if you don't got these eyelashes, you don't got this, you're not that. But makeup does so much of a difference. Once that makeup come off and they don't look the same, what do you do though? What did you really fall in love with? You got to fall in love with what's genuine. And that's where you know, we forget.
Speaking of love, you think that we could get love back in hip hop the way it used to be? You think
I
that
think
we
the
would?
love is in hip hop. I think there's a lot of love in hip hop. I think eventually there's gonna be a point where the music is gonna surround back
It's
to
gonna come
goodness.
back.
I feel like there's a good amount of R&B here and there that's coming around. A lot of artists that are starting to pay attention to that feel good music that is out there. There's so many artists that are not being heard that we like. It's almost like back in the day. There's a lot of artists that are in UK that you never heard of. There's a lot of artists in Australia. There's artists in Peru. There's just so much different music in the world. But I really think the R&B is gonna come back. The R&B is gonna be like when Mary was the thing. Like
Yeah.
your party didn't rock if you ain't listening to Mary for a good 2 hours. Your crate had to have a bunch of Mary to rock a party. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's gonna come back.
That's great. And again, that's all in the hands of the DJ because
Yeah, but some DJs don't got it. But hey, that's not my job. I know mine's. Learn yours.
anything else you want to add, Vern? Man, again, we really appreciate you. This is an
Thank you
honor,
for having me,
even
Big.
coming here, man. It's much love to you, brother.
Thank
You
you.
know what I'm
And I
saying?
appreciate my bottle. You
Yeah,
heard?
definitely. And shout outs to all the G Unit family. Peace.